Once upon a time, there was a man who took £200,300 from a bank in London. The man, who would be aged between 20 and 24, the man would go on the run. Metropolitan Police were on the lookout for this man. The man would head westbound towards Shepherd's Bush. The next day, the man, he would get arrested for taking £200,300. He would go to Sheffield Crown Court, where Judge Gavin Wilkinson, he would hand the man, who is named as Dale Roberts. But in a twist, there was a massive brawl. Dale Roberts would break out of court and go on the run once more. However, this time Dale Roberts would not be denied. The police arrested Dale Roberts, and Dale Roberts would be driven off in the police car. But Dale Roberts, he was behaving really disorderly. He jumped out of the police car. Dale Roberts would board a plane to Buenos Aires. Dale Roberts was spitting at the police. Later that afternoon, the police entered Dale Roberts' home, where they spoke to his parents. The police explained to his parents that Dale Roberts had been taking money from a bank. They also told his parents that he did a run out of court and jumped out of the police car. The police told his parents that they did not know where he had headed, but one thing for sure, that Dale Roberts is a very dangerous individual who needs to be put behind bars. And yeah, he needs to be put behind bars, he needs to be put to justice. The next day, Dale Roberts received a phone call. It was Dale Roberts' dad. Brett Roberts, his dad, was living with Dale Roberts and ordered him to fly back to England. And that he should hand himself in. But Dale Roberts' reply to Dale Roberts was, "No chance that I'm going to come back to England." However, the unexpected happened. Dale Roberts returned back to England. The police, they were waiting at the airport for Dale Roberts' arrival back to Heathrow. Dale Roberts came off the plane and walked out of the airport being handcuffed by the police. This time Dale Roberts was drove to prison, but yet again Dale Roberts jumped out of the police car. What was this man doing? However, he wouldn't get that far as the other policeman wrestled Dale Roberts down to the ground, but Dale Roberts responded. He stole the police car and drove off in it. However, Dale Roberts was caught on CCTV and he was later put in his cell in prison. The next day, Dale Roberts did a video from prison. He outlined his plan to escape prison. He did not regret taking money from a bank. The next day, Dale Roberts went on the run and escaped prison. He headed southbound towards Lewisham. Would the police be able to find Dale Roberts, or will Dale Roberts leave the country and not come back? However, Dale Roberts, he didn't get too far because he was spotted on CCTV. Now Dale Roberts had the momentum. He headed on a plane to Ecuador. Dale Roberts checked into his accommodation and settled down in his apartment. Late that evening, he received a phone call, but he refused to answer his phone. He then decided to go out drinking in a pub in Ecuador. He had a pint of beer, but then he went back to the flat to settle down for the night. The next day, he received a knock on the door. It was South American police. They had tracked him, but he refused to answer the door. He was really starting to be a real nuisance to the neighbourhood. Dale Roberts went out and bought some food, then decided to cook some curry with chapatis for lunch and have chili con carne for his tea. Meanwhile, back in England, the police held a news conference. They worked with Heathrow Airport to step up security measures. Dale Roberts travelled with a fake passport. He did not use his passport. Dale Roberts would never speak to his parents again, and Dale Roberts he decided to change his phone number. So if his mum and dad tried to get through to him, they would have no luck. His parents spoke on Sky News. The message to him was simple. It was, wherever you are, to turn yourself in and serve your time in prison. The next day, Metropolitan Police, they came up with a new strategy. So they ensured they get their man, and to ensure that he does not manage to escape prison next time. Later that evening, Dale Roberts, he decided to go clubbing. He got talking to some girls. Dale Roberts, he really liked the girl, and they asked him how. Dale Roberts said yes, and they planned to go on a run. Now they planned to go on a date in a restaurant in the setting of Ecuador. The next day, Dale Roberts, he went out to a restaurant in the centre of Ecuador. They ate some lovely South American food. The next day, Dale Roberts boarded the plane with his girlfriend and flew back to England. Dale Roberts, he started looking for a flat in the Brighton area for him and his girlfriend. Dale Roberts picked up the keys, but would later not succeed because Dale Roberts has a criminal record of taking money from a bank. However, Dale Roberts tried to play it all down and wanted to move on. From the instant he started, he stated so he was clean, but would Dale Roberts tell the truth? His girlfriend tried to back him up. His girlfriend asked Dale Roberts about his family, but Dale Roberts told her he was not talking to his family anymore. Later that evening, Dale Roberts got a job interview as a bar staff at B at 1. Dale Roberts would find out in the next week or so if he had got the job. The next day, Dale Roberts received a phone call from his on his mobile. Dale Roberts, subject to DNA checks, would be working at Beyond One. However, the results would be good. It showed Dale Roberts had wouldn't be good. It showed Dale Roberts had taken money from a bank in London and that the police were currently looking for him because he had escaped from prison. Yeah, the manager, Todd Robinson, who was 6'6", brown, spiky hair, wanted to think about it and then would let Dale Roberts know his decision. The next day, Dale Roberts had the phone call from Todd Robinson. He was offered the job, and Dale Roberts would be working for Todd Robinson at B at 1. However, this would turn out to be a really controversial decision by Todd Robinson, and Todd Robinson will be under investigation after the controversial decision to hire Dale Roberts. The end of Sam Jenkinson done.